December 7th is a date that I will probably never forget. My wife, present wife right now, we've been married 62 years, and in December 7th, we were out on Broad Street, right across the street from some good friends of ours, the Watts family. And it came over the car radio. We were sitting there getting ready to go to the matinee movie. And we were sitting in the car there, and it came over there that the Japs had just bombed Pearl Harbor. And we looked at each other and said, where in the world is Pearl Harbor? I said, I never heard of Pearl Harbor. And but anyway, that we were waiting to go to the matinee movie that all us kids get together on Sunday afternoon in Georgetown. You had to find some kind of entertainment. So we were getting ready to go to the matinee movie, and everybody was kind of astonished and thinking, looking at each other, Pearl Harbor, and the Japs just bombed Pearl Harbor. Little did I know I was going to wind up there later on, but but anyway, that was the start of it. And of course, we were in high school, and we did whatever we could as kids back in those days. We joined the spotters for airplanes and stuff around, and we'd do spots during the home guards and everything. And of course, as the war progressed on and stuff, and I will say my grades were horrible in school, and I knew that I was going to be draft material. So I said, you know, this was about in '43. I said, you know, I got to do something about it. My grades is horrible. I believe they're going to draft me, and I certainly don't want to dig a foxhole. I want to have a place where I got my own bunk or something. But anyway, I got to thinking, and someone said, and so many of my buddies had already left. They were in the Navy, and they'd gone to the European theater. And I said, well, I think to get my pick, I better sign up for immediate induction. So I did. I signed up for immediate induction, and we got our call to go to Fort Jackson. And back in those days, I think they were taking anything that could walk. Anyway, I got my call to go to Fort Jackson, and we used to back then call it the cattle car. They didn't have any luxury buses or anything to get there. They had an old trailer with some bench seats in there and the side curtains or something. You'd freeze to death or something. And I got a few comical stories about that. Talking about Fort Jackson, we got up there. Bob Mayer was a funeral director. He was going and up there, and Fred Noble's the chief of police was in there with me, and a lot of them. And anyway, we got to Fort Jackson, and of course I took my physical, and I got my pick between the Army and Navy Marines. But getting back to the story, I'm getting a little bit ahead of my story. I think the funniest part about it, I was right behind Fred, the chief of police, and the fellow looked at Fred, and he said, Chief of Police of Georgetown, South Carolina. He said, what in the, could I use any kind of language? What in the hell are you doing up here? I said, you know, you come from a little rural community town. We don't draft chief of police. Who in the world did you make mad on the draft board? He said, the chairman of the draft board, a fellow, Mr. Joel G. King, and I pulled him for speeding down Main Street of Georgetown, and he said, well, your tail will be up here in Fort Jackson next week. And said, here I am. He said, we don't draft chief of police. Wham, he hit down on the deck, rejected. So he sent Fred back, and I think out of the whole busloads, it was myself and Cecil Hanks, and poor Bob, physically he couldn't pass, and they had another fellow, Thurston Powell, he couldn't pass. But anyway, I think out of the busload they kept two of us. So anyway, and that was in December 1943. So I said, well, anyway, I passed, and I got my orders. They said, well, this is December something. That's your orders report the 10th of January. You go on up to we're going to send you to Great Lakes, Illinois, training. And you report back up here, and the train will be picking you up from Georgia on up. They picked, you know, draftees on up. And so that was my start of going. So I went on up to Great Lakes, Illinois, and had my basic training. I forgot exactly how long it was. I believe about 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks of basic training, boot camp, they called it back then. After boot camp, of course, I came home and reported back to Great Lakes, got my assignment, and about a half a carload of sailors were leaving there, and we had to report. They didn't tell us where we were going, to tell you the truth. We got on the train, and they said, well, you got your duties cut up for you, assigned. So we stopped in a little town at Bainbridge, and all of us started writing notes, and said, you know, would you please take these notes and this postcard and send it back home? So you tell me I wrote Wheezy, my sweetheart. And they said, oh, you dang fools, you don't know you're going out to sea. You got no business doing that. He show patrol out there picking up the card, said, don't do that. Don't you do that again. Anyway, a fellow said, oh, we're going to see Norfolk. But anyway, the next morning, in the middle of the morning, it was still dark. The train back down on the pier, and we said, all right, sailors, grab your sea bags. You're on your way. Here, your assignment is USS Storm King, 175 APA is attack transport. So, and that fellow said, hell, I thought he said see Norfolk. I didn't know we were going to sea. So we got on the Storm King, and that was my next assignment for about 6 months on that ship. And we got going out to sea and stuff. It went on around through the Panama Canal and on out into the Pacific, and from then on I kind of lived out of a sea bag. I served on the Storm King. We went out to did a little bit to South Pacific and stuff, hauled Marines and supplies and stuff, and then I got orders to report back to USS Naval Air Station, Barbers Point in Hawaii, and so I served on there a little bit. I stayed in the Pacific about 26 months, just batting around. And one day, the chief, CEO over there in Hawaii called a group of us in and said, you fellas, we can't get you a permanent place right now. Would you like to volunteer for new construction, come back to the States and pick up a new ship? I said, yes, sir. What is it in it? What's in it for me? He said, a 30-day leave. I said, I'll take it. But anyway, I got orders to report back to the States, and I said, you know, it's a heck of a note. I've been batting around out here in the Pacific and stuff for 26 months, and I never bumped into anybody from home. And we went into Terminal Island, that's San Pedro, California, and waiting for our assignment. So they said, well, we don't have a ship ready here for you. We'll send you on over to the East Coast there. And I said, well, so I got my orders to report to Minecraft Training Center. And I said, you know, I still haven't run into anybody from Georgetown, South Carolina. But anyway, as I went into the base, Little Creek, Virginia was right next door. That's an amphibious base. And a good friend of mine, Billy Caraway, was over there. He just got back from Europe, and we got together. But anyway, when I walked in, I said, looked over at the administration building, and there's a big sign over the door, Commander J.L. Bull. He was commander of the base. I said, well, I'll be damned. I had to go all the way around or halfway around the dang world and come back home and run into somebody I know. So I cut a trail over to the administration building, and a little old yeoman was back there with a typewriter typing up something, and I rapped on the desk, and I said, I would like to speak to Commander Bull. He said, who the hell you think you are, sailor, that you can speak to Commander Bull? I said, well, you just go in that door and tell him old Jeep Ford from Georgetown, South Carolina is out here and would like to speak to him. He said, okay, son, that'll be your ASS. I said, well, you go ahead and try it anyway. So anyway, he walked in there, and about that time, the door flew open, and Mr. Bull was about as wide as he was high. It looked like a little bulldog there. He come out there, and he said, darn boy, what the hell you doing out here? I said, the same reason you here, Commander, fighting a war. He said, get in this office here, I want to talk to you. I told that yawn, I said, let that be a lesson to you. But anyway, I stayed there for a good long time and talking to him and everything, and he said, well, we'll try to teach you something here. We're going into high-speed mine sweeping, which is a thing. They were back there, they were taking little AMs, which was a Miniature destroyer, and making them into mine sweepers and stuff. And I really enjoyed it there. And as a matter of fact, the instructor said, Ford, who you know here? I said, I don't know anybody. He said, the hell you don't? I said, you've been here all this time, you know more about mine sweeping than I know. Why don't you get up here and teach this class? I said, I don't know anything about that. But anyway, he said, Mr. Bull sent for me, and he said, Commander Bull, he said, Ford to report to his office. And he said, Jeep, I got an assignment. I don't know what it is, but I know it's better than where you're going. I said, Commander, I've been training with these fellas, and they tell me I'm about to get assigned a ship. He said, you think I don't know that? He was the boss. He said, you fixed to get your tail shot off. He said, I'm not asking you, son, I'm telling you. And I said, aye, aye, Skipper, you're coming in loud and clear. So anyway, he said, go over and pick your orders up. You're supposed to report to the Washington Naval Gun Factory. I said, Washington Naval Gun Factory? He said, I don't know. I don't know what it is. If he did, he wasn't telling me. Anyway, he said, report there. Well, to make a long story short, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Roosevelt had just died, and then Harry Truman taken over as president. But my assignment was duty on the Presidential Yacht. So I said, well, sir, 26 months of my time out here rolling around this ocean and finally coming back home. And anyway, he said, so anyway, I served on that. I had the USS Potomac was the first yacht, and all the brass there in Washington was banging theirs with the president about that time, the new president and stuff, and they decided the Potomac wasn't big, so they got the Williamsburg, which was a big yacht. But that didn't suit Harry too well. He didn't like that, so they got a 64-foot yacht that they had commandeered. Obviously got them from somebody, you know, the government could take anybody's yacht or something like that. And they called it a day cruiser. And there were no commissioned officers on it whatsoever. It was the chief quartermaster was the skipper of it, and Chief Filipino steward, which of course would serve the food and stuff, and a motor mac, which was in charge of the engines, and Seaman First Class, which is me, who had the helm and everything, the deck stuff. And so that was my duty for the last 13 months of my duty in the Navy. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Bess and Margaret and Harry, they used it just as regularly as used. About 2 or 3 times a week. Bess, she wanted to take some of the ladies down to Potomac and for a short ride on a yacht and stuff. So that was my duty. But I got a little ahead of myself too. What I think was real comical on the Potomac, when Harry was there, that was his first trip on the Potomac, which was a converted Coast Guard cruiser that, you know, real streamlined boat. And it was fixed up for Roosevelt. Had all teak wood decks and had a dummy mast, a smokestack in the back, which was the elevator for Roosevelt, because he was crippled, you know, and they had to roll him around in a wheelchair. No bumps on the decks or anything, and it was really made for him, built for him. But it was a beautiful boat. But anyway, that is pretty well my life in the Navy. Well, Commander Bull, I'll tell you a little bit. He's an old Georgetonian. He'd been here all his life, and his father before him. And he later, before he went into the service, he was principal of WWII High School. And he's got a son here right now, J.L. Bull Jr., which was a commander in the Navy later on. And he's got another son that is Clayton Bull, and he's living in Georgetown, and had a daughter that was Joanne Bull. It's Joanne Sasson now. But when I was in Little Creek, Commander Bull would invite me, and I think he was a distant kin, or maybe a cousin, Billy Caraway, that was at the landing amphibious base next door to the Minecraft base. And we used to go out to Virginia Beach, and of course Joe Bull Jr. and Clayton and Joanne were just little kids then, running around. And but he was well respected. Like I say, he was principal of WWII High School, and in charge of the educational system pretty much in Georgetown for a long time. We had another little boat that used to follow us around. Wasn't a little boat, it was as big as our yacht. And that's what the Secret Service were on. And every darn one of them, about 6'6", big fellas, as well as I can remember. I said, you know, they all wore pretty good top coats and stuff. I said, they probably got enough ammunition under that coat to start a war, but all of it, just regular fellas, and every now and then one would get on the boat with us and stuff. But I tell you this, when we would come back into the Navy Yard there to tie up, you've never seen so much brass in all your life. Harry S. Truman ruled with an iron hand, but he was just a principled fellow. I got a lot of respect and stuff for him. He was a man of decision. That he'd love to come up to the pilot house and he'd sit there and talk. He'd just say, "Well, where you from, son?" I said, "Georgetown, South Carolina, sir." He said, "I bet you'd like to be home, wouldn't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I certainly would." He said, "Well, it probably won't be too long." And you know, after the war was over and everything, I got to thinking about that thing. I think he had something in his mind. But he was great. In his family, they were all just regular people, easy to talk to. But he ruled with an iron hand. You could tell that. And always had his little hat on and a white shirt with a bow tie. And really, I never seen him just kind of walk. It looked like he's walking on his toes all the time. He's a great walker. He loved to walk. He did drink old granddad liquor. I know that for a fact. I wish he'd drunk a little bit higher grade liquor, but I guess you'd take whatever you could get back in those days. But old Oliveris, chief Filipino steward, he was one of the guerrillas in the Philippines, and he was quite a character. The food?
Yeah.
It was very nice. We ate the same thing they ate too. Yeah. Every now and then I'd get a little taste of his booze too, but Al Alvarez used to sell them around in a Coca-Cola bottle mixed up with the Coca-Cola. You couldn't tell what was in it. He always had a smile on his face when he'd come through the pilot house and hand it to me, but I knew he had it spiked a little bit. We had our quarters up front. Had full bunks right up front. We were pretty well on call all the time. They didn't know when to expect him or when he was going or where he was going or anything. But we were pretty well on call. But we were pretty well universal. One time the motorbike didn't show up, and the chief in charge, a fellow named Avery, he said, "Chief, we got the president coming down here. He wants to go out, and the motorbike hadn't come back. What do you do?" He said, "You think you can run it?" I said, "Sure, I know how to run the damn thing. I watched him. I know how to crank those diesels up. You know, we'll throw the show line off and the power and cut the power and hook up the Delco plant and stuff, and we'll be on the way." But yeah, we were pretty well universal, and most of us could do most anything. No conversation with her, and his wife either. They were nice people. They would always speak to you. A nice day. Their turning around place was down the Potomac, right off Mount Vernon. They loved Mount Vernon. Oh yeah, getting back to that, a little funny story about Mount Vernon on the Potomac. As you go by Mount Vernon, everybody on the ship comes to attention and lines up on the rails and stuff, and they blow taps and toll the bells, you know. And skipper on the Potomac, he hadn't had that because Roosevelt had been sick so long, and he didn't have anything. And he said, on the ship, he said, on the boat, he said, "Anybody on here know how to blow a bugle?" I said, "Yes, sir, I can blow a bugle." He said, "You can? Where'd you blow a bugle?" I said, "In the Boy Scouts." He said, "You think you can blow taps, son?" I said, "Yes, sir, I believe I can." He slapped that bugle in my chest, and he said, "You are the bugler man now. Can you blow taps and not make a mistake?" I said, "Yes, sir, I believe I can." He said, "Go up in the anchor locker there, and that up there, you know, is where they keep all the anchor chain and stuff stored, and got it airtight thing, and practice. I don't want you to make any mistake." I said, "No, sir, I don't make no mistake." But anyway, I went up there and practiced. I hadn't blown a bugle in years, but anyway, I got up there and I didn't miss a beat. This is perfect right on through, and they tolled the bells, and everybody came to attention and saluted as they passed Mount Vernon. Harry stood out there with his hand over his heart and stuff, and he sort of paid his respect to Mount Vernon there. But it was quite a story. Wheezy said, "You know, Chief, you ought not keep that in, do you?" I said, that's quite a story on the Presidential Yacht. I said, "Wheezy, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I am grateful to Commander Bull." That's probably why I'm here talking to you today. I came home, I really wanted to kind of use my GI Bill of Rights for some good, maybe further my education and stuff. And I got home, and my uncle, my family had a ship's chandler store named C.L. Ford and Sons. It was a hardware store and a grocery store that really serviced most of the plantations around here and stuff, and were paymaster and kind of a waypoint for all your plantations. The roads were horrible around Georgetown, and most of your travel was by water. You used to tie up behind the store. But my uncle said to me when I came, he said, "Your father, ever since you've been gone in service, he had a bad heart. He couldn't work. Now they tell me I got a bad liver and bad kidneys, and I'm not going to live long. There's the keys. Come on back and I'll show you the combination of the safe." And so I went to work, and I worked in there for several years, and then finally, about that time, my brother, he served in Pacific too, and he was in the Air Force, and he came back, and all the boys and stuff started coming back home, and everybody was back. And but my father-in-law, after several years, had Weezy finishing her education at Salem College, and we got married. And he said, "You know, Jeep, I don't have a son. I want you to come to work for me and get your work and then up in the dealership work and run the dealership and stuff." I said, "Well, I have to think about it." But anyway, I made a decision to go because we had a lot of family. I had 2 cousins and a brother that was going to work in the store, and I figured it'd be enough family. So that's pretty well my life. Between Parish Motor Company and C.L. Ford and Uncle Sam, they kept my life pretty well too. Well, that's funny. I had a Jeep before the 4-wheel drive was ever invented. Well, at Ship's Chandler store, they had a little thing in Popeye Wimpy and Olive Oil. You remember Eugene the Jeep? He was supposed to be smart, and he knew everything. You'd ask him anything, and he could answer any question or show you anything. But anyway, I used to watch the clerks in the store put the merchandise up in the shelf, and when they couldn't find anything, I'd pull the shirt tail and coat, point to it up on the shelf. He said, "Damn, that thing!" And I knew where everything was, and every time they couldn't find anything, they'd say, "Go ask the Jeep." And that was the slogan, "Go ask the Jeep," in Popeye and Wimpy and Olive Oil. So I got hung with that name, and I never could kick it. Now there's another one, and that very thing that my wife said, if we have a son, his name is not going to be Jeep. But sure enough, right off, his buddies started calling him Jeepy. They would call him Jeep, call him Jeepy. So then now Jeepy had a son, and his name is Jeep. So we got a Jeep, a Jeepy, and a Jeep now. So we got 3 of them. Georgetown is one place, if you get a nickname hung on you, it's going to hang right in there with you. I love Georgetown. I love everything it stands for. Don't want to be anywhere. And I guess the greatest part of my life is my duty with Georgetown Hospital System. I've been on there 32 years, been chairman of it for 26 years. And I'm fixing to retire January 1st, '09. I've had really a wonderful board too. They are a dedicated bunch. They know what their mission is, provide the best health care they can for the people of Georgetown County and the surrounding area, and they've done a super job of it. I couldn't have done it by myself. They've just had a good board and I've had some good administrators. I think our view is that we went in and there was a sneak attack at Pearl Harbor on the United States. I think the greatest thing I can remember about it is everybody in school and around, and everybody wanted a part. America came together, and I would hope and pray that they would do the same thing if we had another attack like this. I don't know that, but I got a feeling with the good young people coming along this day and time would come together. But back in the days when they had Rosie the Riveter and stuff, and I'm just saying, using right now that we're making a lot of news being in the automobile business, Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors. Well, they helped win the war. They quit making cars and went to making war material. And I just don't think today that America could get along without them. I know you're not going to get the Japanese or the Volkswagen people, Germans, to make any war material for you. They really don't like us. But Rosie the Riveter, you had anything from like I say, the undertakers, the school teachers, the pharmacists, and everybody went to building war material and or holding a job that was good. And I feel like that was one of the things. I know as a young boy I didn't have any sense. I just wanted to get out there and see if I could, pardon my language, but see if we couldn't kill some Japs. I mean, they sneak attacked on Pearl Harbor, and their mission was to kill everybody in Pearl Harbor, and the next attack would be on California.